Yo, you were grooving.
I was grooving. That's a good
You were,
tune. I like it.
yes. I
That's
think I
solid,
probably
man.
YouTube back channels where they created the music for people to steal as they want to.
Oh, it's rad. Yeah, 10 out of
Yeah.
10. I would groove to that all day. I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, good like lo-fi, like actually get some work done for a change. Like that's what I was going for.
Love it. I love it.
Like just enough like because I just turn on YouTube for white noise during the day and I find myself watching it and
Hmm.
chastising the videos while I'm watching them. I've started like heckling woodworking videos on YouTube even.
That's
Like,
on brand.
yes. Like why are you really you're using pocket screws? You can't do some kind of joinery, you bum.
Put an anchor in that wall.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's yeah. And yeah, my daughter is going to think I'm absolutely nuts because that was like some of the first videos I watched with her was like, no, that's a bandsaw.
Listen,
Yeah,
my dad and I was in 4-H when I was a kid, and my dad had me building Adirondack style chairs, and I still got a step stool that I built when I was in like second grade. So
yeah.
don't, yeah, that's spectacular. But
Th-
speaking of building stuff, you ready to talk about some
yeah,
proposal topics?
100%.
I got you. I got
Oh,
to transition there.
yeah, yeah. Well, otherwise, we'll just chat because that's just how we are as people. We're both brightly colored because to distract from our own distractibility, if that makes sense. So everybody, welcome to Let's Fix Live. Here I have KAthryn Bennett. They are um, like doing a ton of great things with proposal space, proposal experts or proposal industry experts. Bleh. A phenomenal site. Your podcast. I wanted to say now that I have you on. No,
Mm,
really, everything's fine. Nominated for a Signal Award.
yeah, big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Big deal.
what I really want to talk about today is let's try and fix the proposal space. Let's fix how they interact with sales and the cluster fuckery around there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the correct terminology, really.
Yeah, oh,
Because
it is the scientific term.
let's just lean in. Let's lean into it because proposals. So let me before we get started here, let me tell everybody a little bit about my credentials so that you can know that I'm a credible source. So I've been in proposals for about 13 years. I've spent time in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, in healthcare, tech. All kinds of scientific pursuits. I started my career as a chemist, and so I'm a very process-oriented person and also very detail-oriented as far as how do we work together and build those relationships so that we can actually drive towards the win. So much of what I see in proposals is let's just get it out the door. And it's really difficult for us to know what a winning proposal looks like. You've had this experience. Okay. So there's the two concepts there of like how do we get it done quickly and painlessly so that everybody has a good time and we want to do it again. And then how do we create something that actually wins the work and doesn't waste our company time? Because proposals require a ton of resources, so much more than a traditional sales process because you're engaging so many different experts. So when it comes to thinking about how I would fix the proposal process, a lot of it comes down to those relationships and information gathering pieces between sales and the RFP team.
And not only like how to win it, is it even worth winning? Is a
Mm,
huge thing to me.
yes.
That's where I see most companies have the biggest problems is chasing after these deals and going for the lowest dollar value over and over and over again and just
Yeah.
shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, yeah. We often so here's a good stat for you that comes from the architecture, engineering, and construction space is that if it costs you more than 3% of the dollar value of the bid to create the bid, you are probably spending too much. So extrapolate that as you will. Usually it's for large construction efforts, right? Do you think maybe that's not have you seen people spending more?
I haven't, but like I love having that figure. Like I've
Yeah,
never, I've done some proposal work, but I'm nowhere near where you are. I've gone into the room enough to see that it's a mess. Let's put it that
yeah.
simply. But yeah, that 3% figure is absolutely amazing.
I mean, on the outside edge, you might look at 8%, but really, if you're going to measure one thing in your turnaround or in your proposal business, it should be actually two things. One is like turnaround time. How fast can you make a proposal? It's really important to understand so you know how to serve your customers. Second is going to be cost per bid. Because if you are spending $50,000 to capture $40,000 in business, a lot of folks will say, okay, well, some of those are strategic, and this is true in some cases, right? That might be a strategic flag to plant, like if you're getting Amazon or you're getting Disney or you get, whatever large corporation. But on the whole, and we don't usually look at it like that. So what goes into cost per bid is going to be our labor hours from all subject matter experts. So just like come up with an average of how much those people make, just an estimate, and then how much time it looks like they're spending on the RFPs. And all you have to do is ask them, how long did you spend on that RFP, right? And then you're going to look at the cost of your technology systems. You're going to look at the cost of your paper and ink supplies, and you're going to look at the cost of the labor for your RFP team. And with all of that combined, you can figure out how much you're spending to capture that business. So, again, if you're spending more than the cost of the value of the bid, rethink your process.
So that brings up a really good point. So when would you say it's good to overspend? Like this is a great rule of thumb. Like this is a great, and I hate that term because of its origination of it, but
Right.
like when would you say it's okay to go to 8%, 10%, 12%?
Yeah, I think that we can't just say, oh, it would look good to plant a flag. I think if you're going to go outside of those boundaries and really start spending more to capture that business, you are probably going to need to think about the impact that will have on your future revenue. If it's me, part of the contract terms for an expensive bid like that are going to be that the customer has to create a case study with my marketing department. So if we're going to give you these considerations and we know that this is actually going to cost our business money in order to land you as a customer, we need some additional consideration. So we'd like some quotes, we'd like a case study, or we'd like maybe even an extended contract term. Instead of a year, we need a 3-year commitment from you in order for this to be worth our time. Yeah.
Because I see so many companies in the SaaS space in particular, the drive to winning an account, the drive towards customer acquisition is so high that you don't realize that you're planting a poison tree, so to speak.
Oh, yeah, it's a big, and with RFPs, here's the thing. It's the reason an RFP exists, the reason RFI, RFQ, right? All these things exist is because when it boils down to it, the customer wants to reduce their exposure to risk. And if you are underselling, if you are underestimating the size of the project, or if you are going into a project without fully understanding the scope or really capturing what the price is going to be, now you're exposing your customer to risk and they're going to be pissed. So that's the whole point of that very intentional process. And if you're acting counter to that, then your customer's not going to appreciate you very much when you land them. So
and I love that point in particular because it kind of goes into where we have the issue and what we need to fix, particularly between proposal and sales.
yeah.
Salespeople almost by design have to have these rose-colored glasses of how great things have to look. Like we are trained over and over again that we have to be these sunny optimists all the time, which I obviously don't do all that well.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that? Like, how do you balance that, things will be okay, that optimism with the stark reality of, no, we can lose money on this deal?
Yeah, what it comes down to is that in most organizations, the salesperson's motivations and incentives are directly opposed to the proposals team's motivations and incentives, right? We represent the best interests of the company. And this is not a dig on salespeople. Y'all are chasing a quota and you've been assigned that. Your jobs are at stake if you're not able to meet that quota, right? So that optimism is really necessary and it makes a lot of sense in traditional sales processes. What has to happen when we start thinking about RFPs is we have to look at the best interests of the company as a whole, and how are those expenditures going to change our financial profile. What that means is that sales managers have to help build a bridge between the RFP people and the salespeople, because all the time, and this is justified, from salespeople I hear all the time, y'all just always say no to me. You think we can't chase the work. And the proposal people on the other side are saying, you didn't do your homework on this. I don't have enough to put together a good win theme. I can't win this work. So what I would encourage salespeople to really, really do is get honest in your qualification process. We have a go, no go process for a reason, but you have BANT or MEDPIC or, what are those, FANT or
The
like there's all those.
all of those, yeah.
Yeah, there's a million different qualification models. And when you're looking at an RFP, you've got to be honest.
And BANT is one of my least favorite periods. Like budget. They don't understand the problem yet. How do they have a budget? That
Yes.
alone makes no sense. Like, okay, do they have the authority to do it? You don't know what the problem is. Who's supposed to fix it? Like, you
Yeah.
don't. Dance is just a bad problem all in and of itself. But that's another topic to me.
Well,
Um,
and there's some
but
consideration
so
here too. Oh, sorry.
yeah, no. What I wanted to ask is, I was just thinking about that. Is it should it be more on the salesperson or the sales manager from
Ooh,
that front? Because one of the issues that I see, and this is in sales almost everywhere, is the salesperson. We operate in these silos in almost every
yeah.
company, and proposal is one, marketing is another, and client success is another, and we don't really communicate with any of them all.
Yeah.
Um, how do we structure it? Like, I think we need to go further up the ladder in a way, as opposed to the salespeople working closer with proposals. I think it's the
Yeah.
managers who have to start with training. Stop teaching bands, stop teaching medics, stop teaching Scotsman, and start teaching what your company's go no go is.
Yes. Well, and I think honestly, we did this at Proposal Industry Experts. We did this really
Mhm.
amazing seminar with Whitney Stoll, who is a capture, like a federal capture expert. He's been doing this for, more than a decade. Very, very smart about this space. And he brought up the fact that one of the smartest decisions you can make as a salesperson, if you're going to have RFPs in your court, is to start making buddies with the RFP person who's probably going to be on your proposal, and start getting them involved in the process early so that everybody has the same information. And also get to know your proposal team so you can ask for the right people to be on your bid. So if you know that this customer wants really heavily like polished, designed information, you're going to want to say, hey, I need a graphics person for this for sure. Or I know that this customer wants really super technical writing, and I know that Susan over there is the expert in that particular domain. So get to know the people that are on your team, because outside of those formal power structures, if you're familiar with the folks who can get you the resources that you need and who are your friends and want to help you win the work, you're going to get it across the finish line.
And so another thing that you just brought up is pie,
Yeah.
which like that's something, because I've loved the work that you guys are doing there. I'm not as nearly as active as I want to be because I'm scatterbrained, it seems like. But the amount of resources that you guys have been providing to everybody, like
Yeah.
you've been doing, and now you're like offering a ton of it for free too. Like a lot of the seminars that you guys have done.
Yeah.
I know this is normally an end of conversation push, but I just while I'm thinking of it, I wanted to. Um, why don't you talk about like your community, what you're doing, how you're fixing these issues that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, we often see, like, okay, so when I've been going to proposal manager gatherings in the past, what they've turned into is just like giant bitch sessions about salespeople or technical people, where it's like, oh, we can't get them to do what we want. Like, no, duh, we can't get them to do what we
Yeah.
want because they don't understand what we do. And we don't
Mm.
do a good job of explaining why it's important to them. And we don't also position ourselves well to be allies in the sales process, which we are allies. And yes, y'all drive us a little bonkers sometimes, but we still love you.
Mhm.
So, so what we've done
Well, we
with,
drive ourselves bonkers. Like
I'm
let's
sure.
not. It's not we. It's not even we. Like we are bonkers, and it's just contagious in an organization.
Yeah. So at Proposal Industry Experts, what we're striving to do is to help people who are kind of outside of those traditional domains of receiving proposal education. And we're trying to make proposal topics more approachable and more tactical, because what we see so often, and what I see a lot with sales education, is there's this theoretical lens where we're at 30,000 feet above the ground and it's saying, okay, this is how you think about customers and this is how you do, but I need like a checkbox list. I need a form. I need something that I can put in front of my boss and say, here's how I can do my work a little bit better. And so that's what we're striving to do at Pi. What we're doing right now is 3 webinars a month. We're doing one on a hot topic, a career skill, and a technical skill. Right now, those are all free. We also will have 2 perpetually free 30-day classes. One is going to be how to qualify your bid, so a go, no go. We do a 30-day email class that you can sign up for. And then we also will always have our burnout class at no cost. Because that's a huge thing for salespeople in all domains. Proposal people, 80% of us are burned out.
Yeah.
That was before the pandemic.
Well,
So
I
yeah.
remember seeing, and I've shared the image a few times. It was like the 12 stages of burnout, and I realized I was on 11. I'm like, oh
Oh,
damn. Like the 20% who say they aren't burnt out, they're still crispy. Like they're at least original recipe.
Yeah. Well, and the fact is that salespeople, proposal people need to understand that salespeople are put up against these impossible quotas most of the time. It's only like 36% of people nationwide who even meet their quota. So like, what are we doing at sales? Like, what are we doing within the sales organizations that's causing this phenomenon that leads to the bad interpersonal interactions between proposal people?
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, proposals are big money. And if
Yes.
I've never talked to that customer, but that's a $500,000 bid that I could potentially chase. And to watch a salesperson's face fall when you say, we've never talked to them, there's someone else lined up for this, like we can't possibly win this, and then have to experience that, like, yeah, you're right, the sales managers need to understand how to prospect better and how to make sure that we're positioned when the RFP does come down the pipeline for those strategic accounts. So that's squarely on the managers.
And think about the impact that makes on an entire organization. So I've seen anywhere from as low as 24%. I've seen as high as we strive for 80% quota attainments, and virtually nobody ever hits that.
Yeah.
But if even half of salespeople are not hitting quotas, 1 out of 2 people are miserable bastards. What is that doing to your corporate culture? What is that doing to the customers? What is that doing to all of it? And it's just this toxicity that you allow to creep because you're making people feel like failures day in, day out, day in, day out.
Yeah, and there are great salespeople out there. And I will say, those folks who take the initiative to learn a little bit about RFPs, and I mean, if you sell into the government, this is particularly relevant to you. If you're in healthcare, higher ed, anything municipal, if you're in like anything professional services, construction, janitorial, right? Like anything facilities related. If you just spend maybe an hour or two a week for a couple months, diving into the best practices, taking a look. PI is one resource, but there's a lot of other agencies out there that are teaching these basic skills. Then you can show up prepared to that $500,000 deal and go forth and kick ass, right? We want you to. We hate saying no. And I want to dispel that notion that we're like wanting to put barriers up because we're lazy. Like we want to do the work, but we can't waste organizational resources.
Yeah. And this goes really well with all the other silos. Like what a salesperson needs is good stories in order to sell. Like that's what we need. Talking to other customer facing people in proposals and marketing and customer service, client success, whatever you call it. If you are not talking to other people, you are narrative underarmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how important are those internal relationships? Like you're a salesperson, you know how to make friends. Go forth into your organization and do that. Like anytime Donut sends you a little invite or whatever your happy little internal system is, go make friends with the people who could help you make money. Like I am so much more inclined. If a salesperson develops a relationship with me, I'm so much more inclined to go the extra effort for them, go a little bit extra, take the extra time, work a little bit more on a day to help them be successful than somebody I've never met before. So
yeah. And it's the same relationship sales that we all do, but it's sales managers spread salespeople too thin, which carries on to not having enough relationships with customers, let alone internal relationships that we need to be successful.
Yeah, which is why, and I want to lean into this as far as like how proposal efficiency is making changes and proposal tech. So I was the director of RFP excellence at a company called Lupio, which is a proposal technology solution that helps automate some aspects of the RFP process. There are a lot of different solutions out there, RFP.io. There's one called Quandi that's on the up and up, another one called Planned Win, Vendict, Ombud. So there's lots of different solutions that you can choose. I'm not going to tell you which suits your organization, but I will say that if you are looking to make this process, because what you just said about salespeople being spread so thin, the way that we can manage projects better, get better information, and then not have to go bother you again for the information the next time is by maintaining a really great content repository and project management system. So I personally won't go work at another place that doesn't have RFP automation. And if you're a salesperson in a heavily dominated RFP space, you also need to ask for proposal technology. It saves between 35 and 42% off of your time to delivery, which means you can do more RFPs, which means you have more time to prospect, which means you have more time to build those customer relationships. So like, don't spend your time hanging out with us all the time. Use some technology to help you out with that too.
Yeah. And that, again, that's still, even though it's happening through technology, it's still a matter of that communication going back and forth. Like all those things that you have there, even if you don't have those tools, an email with everything laid out is still a good step.
Yes. Yes. Centralize the process, figure
Yes.
out, yep, absolutely. I think that the more we can rely on technology to be our support system, we're all strapped for time. We're all busting our butts, right? And
Yes.
how can we reduce some of the impact of that is through technological systems. Yeah.
Where would you say the biggest, like, what blows up the most deals out of everything else? If you could take one thing out of your life, one miscommunication or whatever it happens to be out of your life, what kills the most RFPs?
Okay, so the single most important factor in your RFP, a lot of people are going to say price because the customer will tell you, oh, you were just too expensive. Okay, no,
Yeah.
you didn't prove the value. How do you
Yes.
prove your value? Okay, the best predictor of future performance is what? Past performance. Okay, I can show up and I can tell you what I will do for you. But if I've never done it for another customer, then it's very unlikely that I'm actually going to be able to get that deal. So if you're going to like your pricing form, whatever, your references, absolutely key, but what and your implement all these plans and things, yes, do those. But the one thing you need to prioritize in your RFP is describing how you have done a project like this before and how you were successful. And if you have not, then take one that's kind of like that and tie those attributes together, right? Like just say like, okay, this had 2,000 people. We've done one for 2,500 people and it was in a related industry. And this is how we see the project is similar. So this is why we're attacking it in this way. But past
Yes.
performance is the number one determinant, in my opinion, of why people lose bids.
I hate pricing as an excuse because it's the easiest thing. It's what no customer is going to say, no, you offended me because we went out to dinner and you ate like an absolute slob or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like they're never going to blame the salesperson, they'll blame the price.
Yes. Yeah, because they want to spare your feelings. And it's like, so
Exactly. Like they're
yeah.
good people.
Yeah.
Like that's it's almost a pain dealing with good people. It's almost easier dealing with somebody who'll just call you an asshole.
Yeah, just I beg my customers, please be direct. And I
Yeah.
called up a customer once. This was one of the more embarrassing moments of my whole career. I called her up and I said, okay, I'd like a debrief on this project. And she said, okay. And she started laughing because once I told her who I represented, and I thought to myself, well, that's not a great sign that she's laughing. And she said, we could not figure out why you submitted on this because yes, your software could conceivably be used for this application, but you have no evidence that you've ever done that before. And you were up against people who have specialized solutions like for airports, and it was for an airport.
Yeah.
And she said, there's no way we were going to choose you. And she said, you put so much time in, the design was great, it was very easy to read, the graphics were comprehensible, but there is absolutely no way we were going to select your software because you can't prove that it would work in this way. And so that's really what it's got to come down to also,
Wow.
is if you're trying to break into a new market or something like that, yeah, okay, you're offering them a discounted price. Okay, I will tell you, RFP is not the way to test that out. Again,
No,
the
not
customer,
in a deal. No, yeah, not at all. Like, yeah,
yeah, the
you need to know somebody in the space who's already willing to take a chance with you before
yes.
it's not you're not going through the proposal process for to break into a market.
No, thank you. Because again, what do proposals do? Risk aversion. They are
Yes.
mitigate risk, right? Because what does it do is it allows the customer to look at an apples to apples comparison because the pricing sheets are the same,
Hmm.
the prescriptive elements are the same, right? So I can make in theory, a more
Hmm.
responsible decision for my organization, for my tax dollars, in my municipality or in my state, right? And the procurement people take that very seriously. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. If you're looking to plant a flag somewhere new, if you're trying to do something a little bit more risky, and I'm sure there's some urban legend. I'm sure someone's cousin's sister's boyfriend once won a bid, right? Okay, but
Yeah.
don't listen to that. That's not real.
Yeah, everything has happened. Somebody always gets like somebody could get a sweetheart deal anywhere. It's entirely possible no matter what.
Yeah,
But it's not what you stake your business on.
no, no. And
No.
proposals are so much more expensive. They involve so many more people that we really have to think about how we're approaching that. So,
So when you say they're so much more expensive, like that,
mhm.
I mean, we're just taking a really small snapshot here, but what would you
Yeah.
say the cost is of the typical proposal that you work on?
Oh, that's a really great question. Um, and for me right now, very difficult for me to answer. Previous
Okay.
companies were about maybe $5,000 to $9,000 when we broke it
Yeah.
all out. Um, which is why, again, like a $45,000 deal with that. I mean, I guess it depends on the recurring revenue. So if it's a 3-year
Yes.
deal, right? Okay, so you have to factor in the value of that contract over time. But I know federal proposals that will go upwards of $700,000 to $1 million to produce, because they take 6 months to a year to actually make the document, and they've been doing prospecting and business development for 3 years prior to that. But that's your aerospace and defense. That's your major federal contracting, Department of Transportation type stuff. So yeah, just
Yeah, and that's if you're in that space, you have my deepest sympathies.
no, federal people are the backbone of this discipline. God bless them.
Yes. Well, yes,
No
it's
way.
because they need so much paperwork to get anything done, and so much additional stuff, and it's well, that's we could go through a long diatribe on that too, but
Well, and telling a story in forms is not easy.
no.
How do I tell the story of what my company has done and what our capabilities are and how our people are so great when I'm given boxes to check, right? But people can do it, and I hold them in high esteem. Absolutely.
And creating those stories is tough for like I think about how many bad company stories I see on a daily basis. Like we were founded in 1948 by John Walker, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
Like
no one cares.
nobody cares about that. They care about what you've done, why you're good at it, and how you can help them.
Yeah. And if I can offer one piece of feedback for any cover letter or executive summary, don't ever write at the beginning, "We are pleased to submit." Everybody, what's the alternative? We are so angry to submit. I mean, no, Dad, you're pleased to submit. Oh, we hated doing this bit.
Yeah, we tolerated submission.
Don't
Like
do
no,
that.
we're
Don't do
not
that.
pleased to submit. Like we put up with you. You
We
kept
hate
asking
it
for
because
new edits and tweaks. Like no, we put up with it. Let's be honest here.
yeah. I mean, I could go on forever. I do think that there is a really important point to be made here too about the review process for RFPs. Salespeople, if you are a part of this deal, it is your deal, and I would strongly recommend that you make a space for yourself, if there isn't one already, for you to review the document with an RFP person before it goes out. Again, depending on the
Mhm.
size and complexity and importance of the deal, sometimes that's useful. But at least before it gets sent out, I would highly recommend you have eyes on that, because it's your name that's probably on that. And so we need you to be an engaged part of that process so that we can make you more successful.
And particularly with that, if something goes wrong, it's the salesperson who miscommunicated in most, or will get blamed for it in most cases too.
Exactly. It'll come down on you. And so we don't want that. We want you to be
No,
successful. We want you to make quota. We want you to make that money, right? And so don't be a stranger during the process, because any RFP person who shuns you and is like, no, don't look at my documents, they're not good at their job. This is such a team sport, and we really have to work together. So don't be shy. And if you aren't given a seat at that table, ask the proposal team.
yeah. So where do you see the biggest like? Because you could hear a little bit of the headbutting, I guess I'll call it,
Yeah.
between sales and the proposal teams. Like communication is obviously key. Having an automated process is key. What
Yeah.
else is there something else that you would really put on the table to make sure that things go smoothly for everybody?
Yeah, I would say that proposal people need to get better about communicating when we do make a process change, or
Hmm.
when something shifts priority wise, or we have a new directive. I think I've been in a lot of organizations where we just assume, oh, the salespeople know what we know, but that's not always true. And so I would,
No,
yeah, yeah.
most of us are idiots.
Well,
Like we are, and I don't mean it in the terms of like we're idiot, but in terms of we don't understand the engineering, we don't understand the fine detail. We are
yeah,
people in so many cases.
yeah.
So to understand the fine details of every single deal, like we typically, because we're behind quota because of the way the organizations are run, we just can't know everything. We aren't provided the training that's actually helpful to us.
And I had a manager at one point who was like, "How can we make this easier for sales at every step? How can we make it easier for sales? I want them to just push one button." And I didn't appreciate that perspective at first. So Ray, if you're listening to
Yes.
this, I apologize. But he's like, "How do we make it simpler for salespeople?" I'm like, "They can click like 3 buttons." And he's like, "No, we want them to click one button. We want this to be easy." So proposal people, your salespeople have a lot on their minds. always strive to make it as easy as possible. We should be the ones who maybe have to deal with a little bit more of that complexity, but we want to make sure that you're engaged in the process and we want to make it easy for you. So prioritize that. And, I would just say if there's process changes, we've just got to make sure we communicate, and don't hold people's feet to the fire too heavily. They have a lot going on. So yeah, I do. And I do think really what it comes down to is that
you blink.
Am I
You
back?
blinked for a moment. There we go. I think we're good.
Sorry, yeah. I was just saying that the leaders need to align on their KPIs and goals. Like we can't. So often the proposal teams. Actually, first of all, a lot of proposal teams don't even have KPIs. How fast do we turn around RFPs, or how much money do we influence every year, or how many RFPs are we going to do? Like, it doesn't matter. Just pick some KPIs and move towards them and line them up with what the sales team wants, right? But I don't think those people talk to each other all the time. Or the proposal team is overseen by salespeople who don't fully understand the complexity of what we do, and there's some friction there too. So again, what it comes down to: educate yourself, take a short class in best practices for proposal management, and you'll end up on the top.
And the best place to do that is
Pi.
Yes. Circling right back to it.
Proposalindustryexperts.com. So here's what we've got that's available for salespeople, and we welcome anyone who's involved in any part of this process to come on in, hang out in our community. Proposalindustryexperts.com. We have folks in there. I mean, I can't even estimate the collective brain power, that like how many years of experience exist in that pool of people. But we've got about 450 folks who are in there, and a lot of them are really, really engaged and really willing to answer questions. So if you're a salesperson, you're running up against friction in your organization, you don't know how to tackle proposals, you need a place to get started, come hang out with us, have a chat. Come to our free webinars, follow us on LinkedIn at proposalindustryexperts.com, and we're happy to provide that to you.
Absolutely. No, this has been absolutely amazing. I loved all of this. We are having you on again. Just say we. It's me. It's me in like the Spider-Man picture. Like me and Leonardo here. Like there's no we here. But I am having you on again.
I love it.
This is an absolute blast. You are amazing. I love Pi. I love all your bakers there, the community that you guys are building. Congrats again on the Signal nomination.
Thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants to listen to our proposal industry podcast, it's actually called No, Really, Everything's Fine. You'll know you're in the right place when you see a flaming dumpster as the logo. We are available on all major all major podcasting platforms. And yeah, we are up for that Signal Award, which should be coming out next month. So keep our fingers crossed.
Absolutely. But thank you so much. This has been a blast. Again, we'll be doing this again soon.
Sounds great. All right. Cheers. Thanks, friend.
All right. You guys have a great one. Thanks so much.
Bye.